All right, so Garrett, man, it's been a minute since we've talked
It
last. I want to say the last interview we did was Warped Tour, yeah, right? So
Yeah.
that's
That's
like
crazy. It's
almost a year now.
yeah, 8 months ago.
Yeah.
7, 8, yeah.
Well, I want to talk about because like I feel like no one talks about this in interviews. They're mostly like grilling you on your interview
Right.
sorry, grilling you on your album or whatever.
Right.
I kind of want to talk about like the beginning stages of Silent Planet.
Yeah.
Like go through
Yeah.
the lineage. Like how did this, if this were the
Do
Old
you want the long
Testament.
version, the medium version, or the short version?
Let's go medium.
Okay.
Let's go medium.
I was at APU.
Go Cougars.
Go Cougars. Azusa Pacific University. Their motto is God First since 1899.
Yeah.
It was crazy. 1899. That's old.
It's really
that's
old.
a pretty old school. And not as old as like Princeton, Harvard, but same century. you
Yeah.
know. Anyways. I was going there. I've never told this story, but I was like my first class I ever took. It was like Old Testament something. It was at 8:05 a.m.
Oy.
and the professor was Bruce Boulogne. Do you remember?
Oh yeah,
Bruce
Boulogne had quite the reputation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He was a real. I mean, he's a scholar. Like he like unearthed stuff, and like he's a big deal. I think in the Old Testament community. And so this dude, I was in his class. Am I looking at you or this?
No, look at me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
I was in this class, and the first class, I knew I wanted to like do the band thing because I had gone to Cornerstone Festival. Like my parents said, hey, you can go anywhere you want. Like we've been saving up money so that we could like buy you a plane ticket to go like somewhere. And they were like, where do you want to go? And I'm like, I want to go to Bushnell, Illinois. And they were like, oh my gosh, my son's a meth head, because why would you want to go, to a cornfield in Illinois? Because I wanted to see Cornerstone Fest, which doesn't exist anymore, even though Audio Feed does, and that's cool too. But yeah, so I had this opportunity to go to Bushnell, Illinois, and see all these bands that I loved. The main band was Plea for Purging. I love and loved A Plea for Purging. And they played like 3 sets a day. They were animals, Their vocals would breathe fire. It was like it was a situation. It was a wild thing. And I was at Cornerstone, and I just saw like this underground heavy music community, and I'm like, I had never seen that before. They didn't really have that in the small town I grew up in. So I was just hooked. And I went to college, and I was like learning all these facts and stuff, which ended up, being cool. But I really had this like yearning to do the band above all. And so I started to meet people in the dorms who like, oh, this guy plays guitar. This guy's dad is literally Sting, the pro wrestler.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I have to meet him.
He bought like our gear. Like, yeah,
No
you heard it here first. Yeah,
way.
like a lot of our early like stuff that Silent Planet had. Well, at the time we called it Panopticon, but our early stuff in 2008, like Sting, like helped us buy it with his.
I never
pro
knew
wrestling
that.
money. Yeah.
Dude, that is so sick because I'm a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah, his son's name is Garrett. Awesome dude. We're still homies. He comes out to our shows in Dallas sometimes.
Huh.
And
Not Garrett Lemister.
no, Garrett
Yeah.
Borden. Yeah,
Yeah.
Garrett Borden.
Lots
is his
of
name.
Garretts in Silent
Father
Planet.
of Steve, son of Steve. I think his name's Steve Borden. But yeah, Sting.
That's awesome.
I called him Sting Daddy.
Sting Daddy.
So Sting helped us out, which was nuts. Because you're in college and you're from some like tiny town, and you all of a sudden you meet people from all over the world, like Terry Crews,
Yeah.
his daughter went there, like because I think it's LA too. So you meet like kids whose parents are like either rich or famous, and you're like, I just grew up in this small place, and it's so weird. But yeah, so his dad like helped us out, and my buddy Daniel Hildebrand. And Jason Scribner, who was like our hall, like he was like the senior and we were the freshmen.
Okay.
But he like played drums for us for a couple years, and so it started as this idea of Panopticon, and then on Craigslist in 2009, I met this guy who had been kicked out of Asking Alexandria, which at the time no one knew who they were quite because they hadn't put out their super
famous
fun music. Yeah, so it was like, yeah, I want to make a band. This other guy who just got like. Had been with this band called Casino Madrid that used to exist. Remember that band?
Yeah.
They were like EDM breakdown stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, so all these crazy things happen, and yeah, we just make a band out of it, I guess. It was really a crazy process, and then in 2010, almost all those guys quit, except for my dude Nathan Benedict, who was in the band. Nathan was there for like pretty much all the stages. It always kind of felt like it was like Nathan and I trying to figure things out, and Nathan was with us till the end of 2012, and is still one of my best friends. He's making awesome music, like more in kind of the indie folk world, and worship pastoring as well. Yeah, but I think the most important thing that probably happened for us is in 2011, after like some of the guys from Temecula who had been in those bands had left, Jay and Nick. I met a kid named Spencer King. He was 17 when I met him, and he sent me like a demo for this like a band that he wanted to start, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to like do vocals on it? Because we want to like get our name out there, so like you don't need to join our band, just do some vocals." And as I was like writing to it, I was like, "This is hands down the coolest music I've ever heard, like from anyone." Like it just blew my mind. How I just felt like he wrote with like such like there's so much like emotion in the music, and there was like a theme to it. It was just, I mean, what it was in retrospect was like somebody who understood how to write a song, who happened to be writing metal. But I think so often, like in the metalcore world, you get a lot of people who like are really good musicians, and they have like cool ideas, but they don't usually think like about the whole picture when they write. They just kind of like go like cool part, okay, cool part, okay, cool part, and unfortunately. It's kind of like what everyone said about the Suicide Squad movie, which I didn't even see. Yeah. But I remember reading the reviews, which was like the dude, I guess, made a great trailer. Because it turns out he can get a good shot, but can he make like a good story? Yeah. And maybe not. And I think maybe that's how a lot of metal and stuff was. So anyways, I meet this kid, he's 17, and he's making like really profoundly cool music. And so I was really moved by it. And so, of course, I was like, yeah, you know, this is great. Do you want to just like do the Silent Planet thing? And so he said, sure. And he like graduated high school, and the next day he moved in with me in the dorm. So the way that we were able to financially do this, because none of us have like money behind us, is I became an RA for the school, which gave me free housing, a free apartment. Yeah. And my one job really as an RA was to make sure like that only people from the university were living there. And so the one thing that I got the job for was to allow Spencer to live there, and Garrett Lemster, who I also Garrett's the way I met Spencer, because his brother Brett was going to the school, Brett Lemster, and so Garrett and Spencer joined the band, and Spencer moves in with me. And then my buddy Ryan Whittington joins the band, who was in a sweet band called Silence of Israel from Bakersfield. And he joins the band and moves in with me. And then it kind of became like the place, you know. Our buddy Teddy Ramirez, he never really joined the band, but he played shows with us for like 9 months. Right? Yeah. Drums. And he was in the band See the Light. He does he still play for Rocket Summer? I think he does.
I think he recently stopped.
Did he stop recently? Yeah. It's funny. He texted me, no joke, 3 days ago. He said, "Hey, I'm in the Bay. Me and Kevin from See the Light are gonna come to your show at Berkeley," which I was stoked about. Oh, that's tight. We play Berkeley on Sunday. What is that? 4 days from now? Wow.
Yeah, it's really sick.
Crazy. Yeah, because we play Chain tomorrow, or 3 days from now we play Berkeley, because Chain's tomorrow. Yeah. Anyways, sorry, the podcast people are like, what details of dates that have long passed? But yeah, so all this, it was crazy, and we did our first tour. Like our buddy Nathan borrowed his mom's Suburban, and we pulled a trailer, and we did it in that. And Cam Smith, he like was a spoken word guy. Okay. He was using hotel books at the time too, so he hopped in the van or the Suburban with us and drove with us. I remember we didn't have enough seats in the Suburban, so we had a separate car following it. We just caravan. But the thing was, like, we it was our first time, so I just booked like along with I got the help of my buddy Lee and Sean from Phineas. They helped us.
Mm-hmm.
And Cam actually had a couple shows, and we just booked like random shows like 2 hours apart. And so like like our first show was in like a video store around Santa Barbara, like a video, like because like literally like those things that don't exist anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was like probably the last one ever
Hollywood
in 2012.
video of some
Yeah, it was like
sort.
some video store, and we just like booked random shows, and we just played for 10 people like every single day.
Yeah.
But it was so cool, your first tour. So we did that, and then yeah, it was kind of the lineup for a bit. Nathan left, Thomas joined. We got a full-time drummer, which was Alex. At the end of 2012, I met him in the Chain Reaction parking lot. Actually,
Yeah.
B-Town, the drummer from Impending Doom, introduced me to him.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then let's see, Spencer stopped touring. And Ryan stopped the band, and Limster stopped, and so we went from a 6-piece to a 5-piece because Igor and Mitch joined.
Yeah.
And then Igor left, and we've been in the middle of 2015, so we've been a 4-piece for 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
So it's crazy though how everything changes. But I think I gave you the medium to long version. Sorry about that.
No, that's good.
I just wanted to make sure I mentioned everyone. who
Yeah.
was a part of it. Oh, and my buddy, I didn't mention my buddy David Belvin. He's a tattoo artist in the Rancho Cucamonga area,
Uh-huh.
and he was with us from 2009 to 2010, and still one of my best friends. Awesome tattoo artist. And I think that's everyone who was like really in the band. I also had like a fun like I made one song with Pete Wallach. You know Pete? Do you know
I don't
Pete
think
from
so.
ABU? He is crazy because he works for the ambulance services that chill behind Glass House during
Oh,
shows.
yeah, yeah.
So I always see him at shows. Pete, and he's an awesome drummer. He's like really Aaron Gillespie like drummer, and he was sick. And my buddy JR like wrote a song with him. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, there's been a lot of people, and I think what it is like, unless if you get popular pretty quickly,
Yeah.
or like you all just like live in a bubble where money and things don't matter. So the stuff happens, people
course.
like are like, oh, I'm in school debt. Sorry, I need to go get a real job. And I get that. Or like,
Yeah.
I got married, or like I had a kid. Like a lot of scenarios happened, you know? And life happens. And I mean, I'm glad for bands that can like, get big quickly, but like that just wasn't the case for us. Like,
Yeah.
we went from no one to no one to no one to no one to no one to, oh, like 10 people on the internet think it's cool. To like, oh, people are like, why doesn't bands take these guys on tour?
Yeah.
To like, oh my gosh, they got on a real tour. I get to see them. To like, whoa, somehow they got to do Warped Tour. And it, like, but I don't think we never had a label presenting us as like, this band is the imminent thing.
Yeah.
And until you listen to them, we're gonna shove them down your throat. So just listen to them anyways.
Yeah.
And it's cool partnering with Solid State because it's really organic. Like,
Very
it wasn't
word of
like
mouth.
it wasn't like we signed to Solid State and boom, things happen.
Yeah.
Because Solid State's awesome, but they don't have the presence in this scene that like maybe a Fearless or a Rise does, where they can like literally just decide, okay, so this band's gonna be on 6 major U.S. tours.
Yeah.
Like, Solid State's had a lot of awesome bands signed in the last couple of years that had great material, but like just didn't have the right circumstance of like getting the tour. Like bands like Forevermore or The Ongoing Concept, awesome bands, like just as talented as our band, just maybe didn't have the opportunities or the right things at the right time. And I think a lot about that, because I'm thankful to be on the label. Because all they focus on is music. They don't really do the politics of stuff. They don't really do like, I know the guy from Limp Bizkit.
I'm gonna get you an
like,
opening slot.
Yeah, or like, yeah, we get you an opening slot, or you signed this Merch 360 deal. And like, I'm not saying some of those labels do that, some of them don't. I actually think Fearless is pretty sick. They do a lot of great stuff. Fearless is awesome. Rise is cool stuff. But there's those labels. There are those labels, and I don't want to. I always tell young people, I'm like if a label's talking to you, I will be brutally honest about who they are, because I want to protect the bands more than like. But I also don't want to hop on a podcast and start dropping crap about labels for people who that doesn't really apply to.
Yeah.
But I do meet people who are like, so and so label hit me up, and I'm like, don't.
Yeah,
I'm
don't.
like, literally one band, I was like, I will get you a contract from a different label in a week. Just don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
I'll do anything because I hate to see art get bastardized. You know,
Yeah.
I hate to see something that's pure and honest and just going for it. I hate to see that fall apart. And you know, that happens. People think that signing to a label will, you know, transport them to this magical place. And one, it doesn't. And two, if they are giving you the world, they're doing it for a reason.
Yeah.
I know some bands I'm not going to name who, like, they came up really fast, but I know definitively that they're not really making much money on tour. And being a band, I understand how much, you know, money's coming in and out from merch and stuff. They should, you know, they should be getting a bit of a savings. You know, I'm not buying mansions, but they should be able to like build a future for themselves. And you know, why not? I mean, if you work 10 months out of the year, I would hope that you could have, you know, have something to show for it financially. And so a lot of bands don't, because they get played, you know. They're like, wow, they're doing so much for us. And it's like, oh, this is why. Because now you're making a lot of money and you're not seeing any of it. Or you don't own the rights. Or they're putting words in your mouth. Or they're making you cut the cool songs that were actually creative and just give them, you know, rehashed crap. So anyways, sorry.
Yeah.
Rant over, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man. I like those. So, I mean, at what point were you going to school and whatnot and thinking like, hey, I want to start getting into like lyric writing? Like, how did you kind of develop that? Because that's not something, I mean, you obviously have a knack for it above a lot of other people, a lot of other vocalists for sure. But I just feel like there had to have been some cultivation in a sense for you to like, when did you start writing lyrics or poetry or
Totally. I mean, I think my first lyrics were, I look back at them, I think they're pretty bad. And I still struggle with self-confidence in that place because, we just finished doing a new album. It was a really interesting experience because I had surgery, and so I was still like experiencing a lot of ringing and like swelling in my ears. And the writing process was really odd, especially this time around. And through it all, I kind of realized something, which is like, I think for me, I kind of think three things about lyrics and how they come together. First of all, for me, it all comes out of divine inspiration. Like I have these really kind of profound moments of like, I don't know, just like closeness with God, and that kind of changes things for me. And I would say to someone, even if you don't believe in God, like experience a form of like numinous intimacy, something that you can't really put to words, something that you can't quantify, that's just presence, you know, that's like being present and experiencing presence. If you can experience that, I think what comes out will be much more like authentic voice and not like trying to sound like someone, but just be someone. And that's the next thing. The second thing is just like know your voice and know what you want to do. Because a lot of times I think when you follow what you want to do, at first it doesn't come out right, but there's a path there. Because as long as you're just like trying to be like, okay, I'm gonna try to sound like this person, you're gonna keep hopping around because your interests will keep changing. But if you find like your actual voice, eventually you're really gonna find it, and then that's when the good stuff starts rolling. I think the third thing is like just working hard. I think that I spend probably 5 to 10 times the amount of effort on lyrics than almost anyone else I know in this genre. That's just the truth of it. Like, I really am not I know really smart people. Mitchell in my band, I really think is a genius. I don't say that lightly. Like I've seen his ability to like memorize and process information and like learn languages because he's bored. Like this is like unique stuff. Like unique stuff. And I'm not that person. Like I'm a person that's very normal. And the reason I say that is because I don't think most people think I meet sometimes people say like those lyrics were so good, like they touched me, like you're a lyrical genius, and I'm not. Like I just try.
Okay.
And I like to tell that to people because it's the truth. And most people that I find are really awesome lyrics. So it's like Aaron Weiss from Me Without You. I've met him. Like I don't think they're it's not about being like larger than life. Like that's the pop culture mentality. Like
Yeah.
Justin Bieber is larger than life, and you'll never be able to be like him because he's Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Because they sold you that bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what pop is. It's selling you this idea that like Katy Perry is better than you, so
Yeah.
you should care about her life because like it's kind of like with the Kardashians and stuff. People put these people on a pedestal, and they're the gods of our time, or they're kind of demigods because people don't think they have omnipotence, but people think they have something about them that is truly like different or special, and I don't actually buy that.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the Kardashians, it's just like because they're there and they have money.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and like Justin Bieber has a great voice, absolutely, but he loves music. He practiced. He's talented, and on top of that, he got on the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot about that, with creativity because I spent 15 hours a day for 2 months working on lyrics, and it's not glamorous. It's just like working really hard, like obsessively hard on stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I know is just work hard. Like I'm so thankful and privileged to be able to do this, and so I want to give it my best every time.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, this album was weird because part of it is like I wish I didn't get surgery right before it because I don't remember large parts of the writing process. It was really weird. Yeah, and I was going through some pretty hard depression. I was really not very well during the writing of this album. I almost a couple times thought maybe I need to fly home. The first thing I did when I got back is I saw a therapist and we discussed getting back on medications for myself. But I'm still kind of recovering from that because it was gnarly, and I was just working so hard on stuff and kind of falling apart. I became a vegetarian just to I just felt like I almost shaved my head. I just went through this process of like I felt like I was being burned alive from the inside out, and I think some cool moments came out of it in this album. But it also shined a light that like I need to, I think for maybe about a year I thought I was out of the woods with like some of the mental health stuff I've gone through, and I realized that I'm probably not, and that's okay. But I think I got to a high point where I was able to like surround myself with enough noise that like I didn't really deal with like myself, but having to deal with myself during the writing of this album, I realized that I'm not the picture of perfect mental health at all. So,
Yeah, I mean, I want that was actually something I wanted to touch on later. But like, what is that when you're writing, and I also wanted to even talk about external things like the weather here is so much more pleasant than in New Jersey. Like I couldn't picture a more polar opposite thing, especially in the winter.
Yeah, no, it's
so
I can't say I loved where we were during the album stuff. And, I worked as hard as I could, but I spent several weeks in, like, the deepest darkness. I think it might have been, like, what they call the dark night of the soul, but I felt like my eyes were just shut, and I thought a lot about that. That Nietzsche quote, one should be careful if they fight with monsters because they can become the monster, and if you stare too long into the abyss will start to stare into you. I thought a lot about that too because I write about a lot of like heavy stuff, and I feel like this time more than ever, the heavy stuff started to like come back to me, and I'm in a weird place as we talk because I was just in the studio a couple days ago, but like. Yeah. I mean, I'm so thankful for first of all, I mean, for like Will Putney, and Randy and Steve, all the guys that are working at Machine Shop, as well as my bandmates, Mitchell and Mitchell and I were there for the whole time. Like 7. Well, Mitch was there a few days earlier because I had to drive there, but I couldn't fly there because of my surgery, so I had to drive across America to get to the studio. Yeah, Mitch and Alex and Thomas, they all helped me a lot because they could see I wasn't well. Like, I really wasn't well. Like, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I'm going to probably spend a year recovering from that,
Really?
Yeah, because I was experiencing things that, like, I thought that it hadn't been since like 2013 or 14 since I'd been there, and you know, it's I think when I'm 27 now, but when I'm 26 and I experience all this stuff when I'm 22, 23, I'm like, oh, it's just the stress of grad school and stuff. And then to experience it again when you're 27 going on 28, you're just like, oh gosh, like this feels like a life sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think also every album gets harder and harder to write because I feel like at some point I feel like I've used the whole English language, which isn't true, of course. But as you know, I write a lot in each song. And a lot of times I'm just like writing, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Oh, but I feel like I kind of said that. And I always want to push forward, like musically too. We have to cross a threshold as a band where like we know that 25% of our audience probably doesn't want to go on this next step with us. And it's totally natural. I get it. Because I there's bands growing up that like they changed their sound and I'm like, no, you can't do that. You know, when Under Earth came out with Define the Great Line, I wasn't ready for that because I wanted like Poppy 2004, They're Only Chasing Safety.
Yeah.
Which like those are like pop songs with screaming.
Yeah.
Well, like pop radio rock. And they know that. And like they know that they grew and matured. But it wasn't like they came out that in 2006 when I was 16. It wasn't until I was like 18 that I realized like what it was. And I'm not saying like, oh, we're going better places and only dumb people don't get it. I don't mean to say that. Like, I just mean to say that we're going to keep growing as a band as much as we can because we don't feel attached to metal or metalcore or hardcore or Warped Tour World or anything. Like, we are just trying to make the coolest music we can. We're trying to like, when we make things, the first question is like, does this feel like we're growing? Does this feel like we're challenging ourselves? And in that process comes stuff that like, it could be better, you know? When this album comes out, I'll absolutely be like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done this. But like, that's the beauty of art. You don't want to focus on like, oh, what could I have done better? You just focus on, well, you know, I'm very privileged to be this white dude in America living in doing a band thing, and I'm given all this access to travel the world, you know, and I mean, most of the cultures you go to, like, people are really nice to you, like, you know, and like we have so much given to us that it's like I just want to focus on, you know, making music that sheds light on what people go through, that and I think challenges people to think. This new album, I can't get into too much detail, but it deals heavily with like apocalypse, with like how I imagine like all these different ways in which I could see the world ending, and it sounds weird, but like
Black Mirror-esque in a sense, like
kind of, yeah.
How good things can go wrong in the future.
Exactly. Yeah, really, actually, yeah. It's very like there's a song about addiction. It's like, well, what does addiction have to do with the end of the world? Because one, from the inside, the addiction is the asteroid that destroys that person's earth. Yeah. It's the thing that they see coming, but they can't stop it. And not only that, I think in a way, addiction is destroying us completely. Like, heroin addiction is insane. Every year, more people are killed from heroin addiction than the Vietnam War killed Americans in its entirety.
Really? Yeah. And it's weird that we don't put our like minds onto that, you know? Like, we don't talk about it really.
Dude, heroin addiction is crazy. Yeah. Like, and you know, when I did my surgery, they were like, you know, have this, like, just gave me a prescription for so many painkillers. And I took one of them, and I know this sounds very new agey, but like, I already felt like the surgery and the anesthesia, I feel like it closed my third eye, kind of. Like, really? I felt momentarily like numb and blind, like in a deeper, like insightful sense, like creative sense. Then third eye is a metaphor. I mean, I in my Christian tradition, it could probably just be said as much like the spirit, you know, as a cop, like the spirit, you know. But there's whatever it was, I felt that, you know, and it yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, yeah, but they give you like these prescriptions, and like these things can lead to severe addictions. Like, really,
Norco and Vicodin.
Totally.
And all that.
I mean, so many people have this view of someone who's an addict as this like miscreant who, you know, is flawed, but like we all have flaws, and a lot of people get into addiction, and they didn't they didn't see that becoming their life. You know what I mean? And in the addiction song, I say I was supposed to be someone, because like just knowing like I was supposed to be someone, because this isn't even being, you know. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because me and my friends were having this conversation, like, what is what is our true self, and like we're kind of all like this blank slate, and things take us to different paths and whatnot.
Tabula rasa. Yep.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting because we like, and we've had this conversation before as well, like you so easily want to disassociate yourself from like I'm not like this. You find a flaw on social media, and there's this huge flock to say I'm not like this, and they
totally
they disassociate themselves with that, and
it is phenomenal. I think the hypocrisy of our modern culture, you see it so much, especially in a lot of young people on social media rush so quickly to, some people call it virtue signaling, but they rush so quickly to be like, I kill your local rapist, or like like when you see someone's convicted of being a pedophile, which is a heinous, disgusting crime. And like, I'm so glad they got caught, which means they won't be able to do that damage anymore. But you see people being like, hang them. And you see these people that like have never hurt anyone in their life talk about like let's tie their legs to different parts of cars and pull them apart. And these things that they think that they want, but they don't know that like they just start, they let that disease that afflicted that person kind of come into them when they do that.
They perpetuate it.
And instead of being like, doing the scariest thing, which is like, looking, okay, so what happened to that person? So they were oftentimes like, in a sense of a pedophile, they were molested as a child. Okay, so like, what, have you been molested as a child? No. Like, good for you. That's awesome. I'm so glad that that's not the case. Can you see how like maybe you wouldn't be the same person quite if that happened to you? Or like if someone was molested as a child and was able to come over that, like that's awesome. Like you're my hero that you could come over that. But instead of just focusing on, just this constant like judgmental thing, I see a lot with the Tim Lambesis thing, honestly. Like Tim inevitably will make new music. I don't think that's because like that's what he does. That's what he always did. And what he did was really heinous. Of course. And I'm glad he got caught. I bet you he's glad he got caught. Well, at least I'm sure he's glad he wasn't able to go through with something so sad. And in the same breath, I just wonder, like, when these people are just like, F you and everything, like, what is it doing? What are they doing for themselves? What are they doing for other people? Are they under the impression that, like, he's never allowed to play music again? Yeah. Like, do we not believe in rehabilitation as a society? Yeah. Because, like, do we... I think a lot of people think prison is a place where you throw people in punitively, but only punitively. So you just throw them in the prison, you let them sit there and rot, get in fights with people, and then when they come out, they still don't deserve to be a part of society. They don't get a chance to be a part of society. Like, what do you want? Like,
exactly. Is there a right way to apologize?
Right.
And overcome this? Yeah. Or is the action like greater than the rest for the rest of their life? Is it worth the rest of their life being tarnished?
Totally. And I think a lot of people say, well, he's allowed. And I just think it's funny when people want to play God. So it's like, so what do you want in the case of Tim? What do you want Tim to be able to do? Like, is he allowed to be a mechanic? Yeah. Is that okay with you in your perfect world? No? Okay, well.
Is he allowed to go to church?
Is he allowed? Yeah, is he allowed to go to church? Is he allowed to, like, have friends? Like, is he allowed to, like, like, give advice? Like, what are you letting him do, Yeah. And that's so strange to me. Because by no means am I saying, like, no one needs to support him or needs to support anyone. Yeah. But it's so interesting when you see people so quick to judge after, like, and I think a lot of that is, like, at some point, I'm sure they've been humble, but they've gone back into the clouds like we always do. Like, if we don't stay anchored to the earth, we float away into the clouds, and all of a sudden it's like, that band sucks. They're not as good anymore. That guy sucks. I saw that guy live. He's not like that. That band's trash, or not even in the music world. Like, even, and I'm guilty of this too, especially with Donald Trump. Like, the guy's absurd. Like, he does a lot of absurd things. He says a lot of ridiculous things. He lives in a world where, like, he thinks he can just change the facts and we're supposed to be okay. And I mean, even if you're a Donald Trump supporter, I hope you're not surprised by someone saying, he has a weird relationship with like
reality.
with reality.
Yeah.
That being said, like I want to be the kind of person that like actually loves him and hurts for him when you see him doing ridiculous things. I want to be the kind of person who's like, Donald, no, like that's not good for you. That's not good for America. That's not how we speak about immigrants. But I want to like be able to be mad about the things that he might say or do without hating the guy.
Yeah, it's hard.
Even if you say, well, why do you feel bad for him? You know, he had a silver spoon in his life, his whole life. I still like I want to be someone who can feel empathy for a kid on the street in India who's huffing glue and is losing his brain cells at the age of 9, and a rich jerk billionaire. I want to be able to like sympathize and empathize with both of them. And I'm not there yet, and I'll confess that like I make fun of him all the time.
Yeah.
But like I really do want to be a person who can humanize him, who can humanize Osama bin Laden. And I realize though that in a certain culture, there's a certain level of self-righteousness that people say like you can't humanize that person. You can literally humanize anyone, but not anyone who's a part of ISIS or whatever. And I realize that that's an offensive part of what I think the gospel message is.
Yeah.
Is like being like loving all people, saying like that a pedophile is still like worth love. Are they worth? Do they deserve freedom? No. Do I want them to have freedom? No. But do I want them? Do I want to uphold their humanity in some way? Do I want? You know, I don't believe in the death penalty. But even if I did, I'd want to say until the moment that the state executes somebody, I want that person to know and to receive love. I don't want them to get what they want, maybe, because maybe what they want is sick and depraved.
Yeah.
But I want them to have what I think what is good for them, and what if they were a whole self, what they would want, you know. But anyways.
Yeah, it's just very interesting where they draw that line, you know. But yeah, regardless, yeah, that was a good tangent. But
So I'm full of this.
no, you're good. One thing I want to
Dude,
talk
do you
about.
have a Mike Tyson shirt? I just realized.
Yeah, Mike Tyson.
Check that out. Can you show the camera?
Mike
Look at that Mike Tyson.
I got it at a because we were talking about Sting and we were talking about wrestling.
Yeah.
There's this shop in the Planet Hollywood shops in Vegas. There's
Okay.
like a UFC/wrestling store. I just went and spent like $200 on like just old wrestling because this is my childhood. Like
Totally.
it's nostalgia for me.
Totally.
So I got like a D-Generation X shirt. I got a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt. I got an Undertaker shirt, and I got this Mike Tyson shirt because Mike Tyson's an OG.
Have you watched the fights that he did?
Yeah,
It's wild. Like,
no, he's crazy.
He's like, it looks like a pit bull is being loosed
yeah,
on a person who doesn't
Yeah.
know what to do with a pit bull, because he's like pretty much just like following people around and just like it's one of the most. I mean, I think like in his prime, he may have been the most dominant athlete in history.
yeah, he's insane.
Like, I don't know if he was as great as Muhammad Ali in a lot of ways, but for his pure dominance, like,
yeah,
knocked out in 30 seconds, it was just like,
he's crazy.
it wasn't fair.
Yeah.
You know, it was pretty funny.
He's a bear, man.
Yeah.
He's a bear. So yeah, one thing I wanted to talk about was in regards to mental health and whatnot. With Silent Planet rising in popularity, do you kind of find it hard to somehow keep in contact with a lot of these people that want so much of you? You know, because
Yeah,
I know
I
at
do.
first, like, you know, Silent Planet, when I first was getting to know you, like, you still had a good fan base. But now it's like to a completely absurd level. Like it's on a bigger scale.
I think what I like to tell people and what helps me not get too stressed out about, like, the fact that I don't really go through my DMs on Instagram or Twitter, or I haven't opened Facebook in like literally 2 months. I think one thing that helps me is if you come to one of our shows, and like if you go to our merch table after our set, there's like a 95% chance that we'll get to talk.
Yeah.
And I think person-to-person communication, one, is the best, and two, it's the one thing that I know can happen. And unfortunately, there are people who can't go to shows for different reasons. Maybe they're like too young and they have to be 16 or 18 to go to a show.
Yeah.
Maybe they live in a country we haven't gone to, and I'm aware of that, and that does bum me out. But I think that I think maybe to 90% of our listeners will get can maybe go to a show at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say this to say like, come to our show, then I'll meet you. As much as that's what I know
Give
can
me your
happen.
money.
Yeah, and I tell people like, hey, you don't need to have like a VIP thing.
Yeah.
You know, like we did VIP once and it was really cool.
Yeah.
But like that didn't change the fact that I still talk to people after shows.
Yeah.
VIP was just like really more like in-depth Q&A about music, and like it was more of like a Silent Planet thing, whereas like after shows I'm just there at the table, whatever. If we want to talk about what you're going through in life, if we want to have a serious conversation, if we just want to like, you know, if you want to be like, how do you scream? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you know? Like,
can you tell me?
Like I've been trying to figure that out. But you know, like whatever, like have those conversations, and those, I think the personal interactions, I really like being able to have, because that also allows me to kind of unplug from social media, because I like to have social media to communicate with people, but I bet you if you like watch a graph of me from like 23 to now, you'd see it going down, like my usage of social media.
Okay.
And I think that's just probably pretty natural to like, one, maybe getting tired of it, and two, I mean, social media will always be the young person's thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds weird, but like we're becoming an older generation. You know, in a few years we'll be 30 plus. I think. How old are you?
26.
Okay, I'm 2 years older than you. A year and a half. When's your birthday?
July 31st.
July 31st. So you're born in 92.
91.
91. Yeah, 91. Okay, yeah. So I'm a year and some months older than you. But you know, we're getting older, and like I just think it's kind of the cycle of things. You know, social media just becomes less of a thing as you get older, and I think that'll always happen. People always be like, "What's that app? What's the new one, Vero?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know what's going on with that.
It was really interesting because I saw their posts about it. Like I saw it as it was happening, because some dude who's like really on the front end of all the social media stuff was posting about it like probably like 3 weeks ago or a month ago, and so I like when it was like a no-name thing. And it's funny, like in the last week, it's become like everyone's like, "Hey, I have a Vero account."
Yeah.
And I meant to post a tweet, something about like, "Hey, I don't know what Vero is, but check out my band." You know, one of those.
Yeah, check out my band.
Like, is Vero a band? Like, do they want to check out my band? Yeah, but.
Well, did you see the downfall of it all already? Now there's already a downfall. I guess the CEO of that app left like 9,000 Filipino workers out of money. He just cut them out. And I guess, I mean, I didn't fact check it, but this is what I've been hearing across like probably like 20 people that I've been seeing them posting about
people
this.
are mad about it.
So now people are boycotting Vero because of supposedly the CEO is a scumbag.
Well, and it's interesting because I mean, I watched a Vero advertisement. It was really well done. And I noticed one thing. It was racially and gender and diverse in all the ways except for age. It was really interesting. It really hit me. Because it's the one thing that I don't think our generation, and especially I think people maybe 10 years younger than me, are not conditioned that we don't see age as a part of the diversity. We see gender, great. We see race, great. We see religion, great. We see you know, just country of origin, but we don't see age. We really don't think in age. I think a lot of people are. I think one of the coolest things about church. I mean, it doesn't have to be church, but oftentimes it is church. But it could be a social club. It could be like a sport thing if it's all ages. But like, it's really important, I think, to have interactions with the older generations.
Yeah, for sure.
With people who lived through the Great Depression or after Great Depression, or people talk to you about the Vietnam. Like, you really learn that like not as much is new under the sun as you think it is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't see that in as far, and I get it. Like they were advertising to 20-somethings because that was their core demo. But it's funny, as obviously it's going to backfire on them because like
social justice, you know. Boom.
Like I mean, and you see it too with bands. Like the most progressive bands are going to be the quickest to be taken down by like allegations. You know, there's bands in the screamo world that I think a lot of their core demographic is under the age of 18, and it's interesting to watch them have the same allegations that you'll see as you do against bands like Brand New or something.
Yeah.
But they get treated very differently because a big question is obviously like, does the demographic care? You know, like a lot. You know, there were a lot of rock bands who did you know, say slept with underage girls, and in no way am I advocating that.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to think if you think about it.
It's happened.
It happened. Well, and that was like they were proud of it. They talk about it. You know?
For sure.
And it's interesting how cultures change. And so someone could say, I'm not saying this happened, but somebody could say Guns N' Roses did this in 1982. Chances are most of Guns N' Roses fan base won't care.
Yeah.
Really. And it's interesting to watch how that, changes from band to band. The band Power Bottom.
Yeah.
If you remember that thing, they got really popular. Like I think they had like sold out House of Blues tour across the country, second album coming out, and there's an allegation, and they were done for.
Yeah.
And the guy said it wasn't true, I don't know the person's gender. I'm sorry. They said it wasn't true. I don't know what the
it was or wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know if it was or wasn't. It's not mine to figure that out. But they were gone because their core demographic takes those things very seriously, which I think is great. But it's interesting, anyways, to get on that tangent. But the Vero thing was obviously taken down by it because everyone that I saw doing it was in their 20s and probably more on the progressive side, Yeah,
and there's a huge shift. There's a huge shift in like how we respect the older generation, I think, because of the internet and whatnot.
Totally.
So I think a lot of at least people like friends my age have said, what do my parents know? Anything I want to know, I can go Google in 2 seconds. Like they think that we're at an intellectual disadvantage, whereas there's also life experience, that you just kind of have to learn yourself that the internet can't teach you.
Totally.
But I think that's a huge part of it. We just kind of have lack respect for the older generations and almost bitterness too towards like just even the economics side of things, like, oh, they ruined the economy for us, like I can't get a house. And
very simple. Yeah, people, man, I've seen so many people say stuff like overthrow capitalism, and a lot of people I respect, like when it comes to how they view a lot of social issues, like I respect them a lot. But the idea that like people shouldn't own things and that instead the government should own everything is a very sick idea.
Yeah.
And it's weird too because like I get grouped in with like, a lot of people like libertarian. Like I've seen people who are like libertarians, like, oh, Silent Planet's like socialist, whatever. It's like no, like I'm very far from believing that the state should own everything.
You voted for Ron Paul.
So I did in 2012. Yeah.
So you got your head on right.
Or sorry, in 2016.
Yeah.
No. Sorry, 2012. 2012 I did. And then 2016, I voted Garrett Johnson actually. So I guess a libertarian as well. But regardless of who we vote for, one, I mean, to me it always seemed like incredible. Personally, it seems like incredible disrespect to people who have lived through the horrors of communism and stuff to like fly the communist flag and be like, people were oppressed, and it's still in North Korea that's happening.
Yep.
And to me, it's very blind. Now, I'm not saying you should be like, you can be very left, and like regulate a lot of things need to be regulated, and like there's a lot of things that are super screwed up with how capitalism is done. I get that, I really do. Definitely not one of those people who thinks like might is right. Like, the CEO of Amazon dude can like do whatever he wants to his warehouse workers. Like, no, like there should be stuff done about that for sure. And that's how America started to really thrive when they started to regulate certain things, during the Industrial Revolution. It's like, wait, no, children shouldn't work because then this generation has the black lung and they're 9 years old and they haven't learned how to read and it's broken. And that does happen. That can happen, and you have to be careful of having a corporate state. I rail against that a lot, actually, on a new song on our album about the Spanish Civil War, because American soldiers go over to fight on behalf of the common Spanish man and woman against this fascist thing that's uprising, only to be like, oh, the trucks that are running over us are Ford trucks, and the oil is Texaco oil, and you realize the enemy of the human became greed. It's the wars, and it's something like. They were funding the Nazis. Like American corporations were funding Nazis. We don't, and these bastards still exist today. You know, and so in just the same breath, you need to critique a lot of the broken things. But man, the idea that like we would want the communist is scary. Because it is a failed idea that ruined and murdered millions of people. People forget, the 3 greatest mass murders in history. Number 1 is Mao Zedong. Number 2 is Stalin. Number 3 is Hitler. All of them had total control. Yeah.
And in general, I think a lot of people kind of think that's something that will never happen again, like a government rule and whatnot. Like, I don't know. I just wouldn't ride it out completely, but
Yeah.
that's just me.
I think you have to be on guard.
That's why I'm just kind of anti-government. I'm not an anarchist, but I'm just pretty. Let's leave it to the people, kind of.
I have started to believe though. Our world is heading more towards a brave new world than it is 1984. I think people for a long time were afraid of the specter of communism or socialism taking over. I actually think it's our own stupidity.
Yeah.
And I think it's our own lack of self-reflection that is really doing us in.
I'd agree.
Because I think that's how you understand Donald Trump. Does Donald Trump say things that are at times fascist? So sometimes, like we should sue the media. That's a little scary. The other day, actually, he is kind of interesting. He was talking about let's just take away guns. It was kind of funny to hear him say that because people always thought Obama was going to say it, but Obama never said that.
Yeah, no.
But
in a lot of ways.
I think you see a person who's like, I want to get this done now. I don't care how it gets done. This is bothering me, so I'm just going to get it done.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's a deep Hitler-esque fascist. But regardless, I think the better way to understand Donald Trump is a world in which people aren't really thinking critically.
Yeah.
He's making promises that are literally impossible.
Yeah.
And people are like, yeah, he's going to do it. Because they're not thinking critically.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everyone who voted for him. I'm not saying everyone who thinks he's is in that camp. But you see a lot of people, and it's the same thing with Clinton. Clinton was able to say, I'm a feminist. I'm good. And is she a feminist? I mean, you decide. But I'm not going to take her word for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at her actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask myself, and we buy into stuff, people aren't thinking critically. People aren't reading books. People are getting their news from from InfoWars or
Instagram posts
or from
tweets.
Yeah, from left things and left on the left and right that just are actually untrue.
Yeah.
And we do live in a weird world where Donald Trump is running with it, to be honest. Like he the other day he said, the CNN people planted a thing and it turned out to not be true. Yeah. He's getting his news from some very biased sources. And for a long time there's been a bias, but the hope is that that our leaders can differentiate from the bias.
Yeah.
But I think ever since Vietnam, really news went away from true journalism to entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's how it's CNN, MSNBC, Fox. It's entertainment. This is a 24-hour news cycle. One, they got to keep you entertained. And two, they have sponsors who are like, hey, we could really use people buying stuff. And they're like, the market's great, buy stuff. It's not honest,
Yeah, definitely not.
But sorry, this is another tangent.
Well, I mean, it kind of relates to a question I wanted to ask. So this political climate, last time you guys wrote a record, it wasn't this crazy. I mean, we didn't have headlines every single day of Donald Trump saying crazy stuff, and he wasn't our president. So
I only wrote a song about. I'll just say I wrote a song about DACA. Very pro DACA is where I'm at personally. And for my friends, I have friends who are threatened by this situation.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a song. It's half parts love song, kind of like just loving them, and the other half is pretty angry and kind of about like just look at yourself, like people who anyone who would scapegoat an immigrant. And I totally understand that a lot of people who want legal immigration aren't against all immigrants, but there is a xenophobia that's out there, and I see it, I hear it, I see. So I wrote about it,
Okay.
Because it definitely got me. I didn't want because that has bothered me a lot, but I didn't want that to take up the whole album, because there's other stuff I know I needed to talk about, like heroin, and stuff that doesn't have to do with that. But a lot of it is the epidemics of our time. I talk about environmental disorder, the disorders that we're causing. I talk about time, space, and aliens, which is really fun and really weird. I talk about the Spanish Civil War because I think it's a reflection of what happens still today. Talk about dementia, because recently I've seen a lot of people and myself have been affected by it. Not having it, but people I
knowing
love.
people.
Knowing people. I write about LGBT kids who are homeless, which is a huge problem. really breaks my heart. I meet kids at shows who've been kicked out of their houses at 16 because they're like, hey, I'm gay. And they're like, well, you're going to hell, and like if you stay in our house, we're going to hell. So they get quarantined, and it's heartbreaking. I wrote a song about material modern despair, very influenced by like Fight Club and Mr. Robot, and kind of the idea of just the despair of where we're at as a society, and like just the addiction to materialism. I wrote a song about, where am I? I wrote a song for my friend who lost his son. It's about losing a child, which is like kind of a follow-up to First Father in a lot of ways, and I think I'm going to call it Firstborn, actually. I wrote a song for a very close family member of mine who was abused, and by a different family member, not in like my immediate family, but about abuse. And I meet a lot of people who went through physical and sexual abuse, and I really wanted to write a song for them, just seeing that. I think the goal, honestly, for Silent Plan is like, I want people to be seen, and not seen like SCENE, not like I want people to have black hair and they can't if they want, but I want people to be like known and seen and noticed. I want to shed light on things. And like, am I the best person to do it? No, not at all. Like I really, there are a lot of people who've written about abuse and substance abuse and borders better than I have. But I'm gonna try, because I love making music, and I might as well talk about things I think need to be talked about. But in no way do I think I'm like the savior or the person who has the answers. And I think a lot of times what I've come to is like, we need to ask questions, and in our asking of questions, we grow wiser, And a lot of, actually, I deal a lot with truth in this album, like the idea of truth and really distinguishing knowledge from truth, even, if that makes sense. Because, you get to that social media generation, like we have all the facts that we need, but like, have we encountered truth? Because when you encounter truth requires something of you. Knowledge just allows you to collect it, but truth requires you to be changed if you're going to actually embody that truth. And that's something that's hard for people, because we want it on our own terms,
Yeah. What is your mental state in regards to prayer, like while you're writing? I know you were saying that it takes you have these like divine visions and whatnot. Would you say you pray more? Would you say you pray less? Would you say you do different things?
I think the prayer, probably the time spent is probably similar. I think it's different though, and it's probably more desperate, because I'm like, God, show up, please. But I just want to be connected to the God who knows me. I think I'm gonna probably say this: this album is probably the weirdest thing we'll ever do. It's really weird. Like I like singing on it. Like my voice isn't that good.
Oh,
but
really?
I sing on it. Not a lot. Thomas sings more. Dude, the biggest improvement in our band is Thomas's singing is so good on this album.
He's amazing.
Like, he killed it on this album. Like, I'm so proud of him. He really, I think we have this song that like is almost like a rock song. Like it could be on the radio.
Really? Dad rock.
Yeah, but it's very Deftones influence.
Okay.
Because we love Deftones.
And they have a nice like eerie vibe as well. That's
the thing. This song, it feels like us, but it's its own thing, and it's very. I can't wait for people to hear it, because we're like, don't get me wrong, like this album's really heavy, like, and I know bands always say this album's heavier, but like this album's objectively heavier. Like I'm like doing a lot of heavy stuff and talking about a lot of heavy stuff, and the music's doing a lot of heavy stuff. And so it's really funny that I'm like, honestly, this might be the heaviest album we ever make. And on this very heavy album, we have this song that's not heavy, really. But like emotionally, I think it's really heavy. But like musically, it's not really metal. But it was really fun to make. And just like, that's the thing, we just want to try stuff, People are like, oh, are you guys getting this or that? I'm like, I don't know. We're going to make music, and, some of you will like it and some of you will hate it. And hopefully you still buy shirts, because that allows us to do this for a living. But
how do you for this album, how did you kind of connect? Did you connect it, I guess is the better question, with the previous albums? Like, okay, so there is like that still connected
sentence
theme.
continues.
Okay, sentence continues. Okay, interesting. So the title will makes sense with the rest, essentially.
I'm gonna post a photo probably after this on Instagram because I realized I haven't posted on Instagram in 3 weeks when we started talking about social media. But I'm probably gonna post the initials, which is WTEB.
WTEB. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone was asking in the depths posting, because I told him, I was like, hey, I'm interviewing Garrett. What are some questions? Someone was
You know
saying,
the album title?
well, I mean, no, they were wondering because Mitch posted on his Instagram something about March. It was a certain date, March something, and they're saying, what's that about?
I have no idea what Mitch is talking about.
So Mitch
I
is,
really don't know what
Mitch
he's
is
talking
conspiring on his own. Okay.
about. March?
March something, yeah. I mean, I could pull my phone's recording. Well,
Did you
anyways.
say March 26th?
Maybe.
I still have one more song to record.
Okay.
And I'm gonna record it on March 26th. So then the album will actually be done on March 26th.
Okay.
It's like 95% done. It's literally just one song doesn't have anything vocally on it yet.
Okay.
And that song is Depths 3.
Depths 3.
I
Okay.
wrote a lot for it. But it was missing something, and we actually. We would have had to come back to do something else, but that thing was already ready. So instead, like, we still stayed up till 4 a.m. on the last day doing stuff. But I figured it was better to just do everything else and then just leave that one hole for later. So I'm gonna go do Depths 3. Yeah.
2 questions, just so I don't forget, because they're not written.
Oh, there's
down
a
on
Depths 3, by the way.
There's a Depths 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got it. Hell yeah. That's awesome, man.
Remember Depths 1?
Yeah, dude. Throwback.
It's funny how I realize how many people don't know that there was a Depths 1. They probably will now, because I think if
Now
you see
they
Depths
will.
2, you might think like, oh, that's just a title. I could see how you'd think that, but once you see a Depths 2 and a Depths 3, you have to figure there's probably a Depths 1.
Where's Depths 1?
I thought it'd be fun to like redo that, like
Yeah.
like just clean it up, make it sound sonically better.
People were saying redoing Come Wind Come Weather completely.
I mean, I would be down because it would not take us very long.
Yeah.
Mitch could record it in a day, and I could probably record it vocally in a day or two.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would be down.
And Alex could record it in 2 seconds.
Here's the thing. I know it's so weird to say this, because like there's so many lyricists who are so much better than me, and vocals who are better than me. There's even guitarists who are better than Mitch, even though Mitch is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of drummers that are better than Alex, and I know it sounds so ridiculous, right?
He's
Like,
really good.
It's like because everyone always like uses superlatives like the best,
Mhm.
but like it's like maybe he's the best, and I know that's so funny to say, but like I've been saying that for a while to people. They're like, "Oh, tell me about your band." I'm like, "We're okay. Our drummer's like the best drummer in the world."
Yeah, that was like one of the first things you told me, actually. Like, I was just doing drum cams, like starting out.
Yeah.
Like, this was many years
And
ago.
I'm like, "You should do Alex.
And
He's
you're like-
the best drummer in
You're
the world."
You're like, I'm not saying this lightly, but like, we really legitimately have the best drummer like in the world. Like, he's like the best drummer. You got to do one with him.
It's so fun to watch him record because everyone just like at the studio was like
Yeah.
gathering around.
Yeah.
Actually, counterparts came through and Brendan watched him track.
Awesome.
And no joke, just for style points, Alex in the middle of drumming grabs his vape and blows a cloud and keeps drumming.
While he's recording.
And we're like, "You asshole!"
He's too good, man.
He's really a guy that has a gift.
Did Spencer have any input on this record?
No.
Keen. Okay. So
No,
this is the first record that he's just hands off.
Yeah, totally hands off.
Interesting.
Spencer's awesome. Spencer's genuinely one of the best musicians. Well, I would say he's one of the best like music writers you could have, producers you could meet. Like
Yeah.
he's really gifted. And I think he's gonna go into film scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Because he should. Because he can make a mood with music. I mean, I think a lot of the reason our band was able to grow early on is we had music that I think really was pretty well thought out by him and had a lot of like a feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would making music with him is awesome, and maybe that'll happen in the future.
Mhm.
Maybe not. I don't know. But no, yeah, this was just the 4 of us.
Awesome.
Well, we did we I think Mitch co-wrote a song and a half with our buddy Dan, and then Will had some ideas. But I mean, the music is like really comes out of the mind of Mitch, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Are there any features on this record?
I don't know actually.
So maybe later?
We're toying around with 1 or 2 potential ones. because we're not in a rush to put out the album, so it could happen over the next month or so. We're not like turning it in for press quite yet.
Okay.
So it's possible. I don't think it's likely though. We thought it'd be kind of fun because I think on the last album we really got the features we wanted, and we thought it'd be fun to just let it. This is just Silent Planet the whole time, you know. So
Yeah. I kind of wanted to talk about Under Oath dropping the F-bomb. I kind of wanted to hear your opinions on that. I know it's kind of off topic from the album. We'll get back to it, but just randomly, I just want to hear your thoughts on how people kind of think that that's a tell-all.
I can't believe they said flubber. I think that was Robin Williams' best work, and it's cool to see someone else, you know, really
taking on the torch.
Really give flubber the airtime it deserves. No, I don't know. I haven't thought much about it. I think Spencer's. I think, I mean, for a long time they really wanted to make it clear that they weren't like this Christian band, and Norma Jean did it too. I think you see these bands that are just like, yo, we're bands just like the other bands that you knew of for 20 years. The, you know, Every Time I Die or Misery Signals. You know, we're just like, we're trying to make music in this world that we're in, and like, I think a lot of bands get tired of like people expecting things of them. So I think saying flubber, but yeah, I think that's one way that you can like make it clear that like you're not trying to be their Christian band, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would like when I heard that, I was like, I mean, that seemed pretty purposeful.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I mean, it's like something that's like, let's make sure we say this, you know.
Yeah.
Not saying it's out of place, but it's pretty purposeful to say, like, you know, we're gonna do this how we want to do this, and that's great. Like, and if I wanted to, like, I actually, it's funny, I do say bastard in this album, which I guess is kind of a curse word. It's kind of a curse word.
I'll bleep it out in the podcast.
Oh gosh, thank you. That wasn't like, oh, I got to say something edgy, but not too edgy. I just like, it just made sense on the line.
Yeah.
You know? For me, it's all about what makes sense in the music. You know. I don't think it's not possible that I wouldn't say it, because I mean, I don't think any words are like cursed or anything. I mean, I think a curse word is when you are when you're putting someone down, when you're cursing someone, when you're saying that guy's an idiot. I think you're cursing someone. That's when you're throwing your language at someone. And I believe that's always the wrong thing to do, to throw your language at someone. That being said, I don't yeah, I don't know.
You don't think it's a big deal, really?
No, I don't really, no, not personally. And I could, like, it's funny, I could say that if I wanted to. Like, our label wouldn't like stop me or anything.
Yeah.
They don't censor at all. They're awesome. I love them. But I just want to make what's true to our band, you know. I do think too. I one issue I'd have with cursing maybe would be my mom hearing it.
Yeah.
As funny as it is, my mom's never heard me say most bad words, and I don't want her to hear me say those words. I do think about that, honestly, because my mom's gonna listen, and I don't want to break her heart a little bit, you know.
Probably. Yeah. Another thing I
want.
want.
What my mom thinks is more important than like literally anyone else. So.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, that really is a good point. Honestly, a lot of people don't really think of that. You know.
Yeah, and I by no means am I saying like if you're saying the F-bomb, like your mom. I guess a lot of people's moms might like be super cool with that.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
My mom's a sweet lady, and you know she wouldn't like that. I do know people's moms who say it all the time. I'm sure that would change the dynamic. You know, if my mom was dropping F-bombs to me all the time, maybe I'd be like, yeah. Maybe that's, but I don't want to offend my mom. I know that sounds weird, but
no, that makes just the social dynamic. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think Christians need to work on being a little more liberal towards these things? Like the fact that when I saw that there was actually controversy towards it, I was kind of like, are we really here at this point? Still?
Yeah. I was surprised too. You got to think at some point, people will get that, like, one, it's never healthy to want to control the decisions of another adult.
Yeah.
And two, language is about intent and what we're doing with it. It's not about it's not the surface level. Like, that word's bad, that word's good. It's what are we doing with language?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Donald Trump has said the F word while he's been president,
Mm-hmm.
but he's spoken very unkindly to people. He's hurt people with his words. He's painted groups in certain broad strokes that were unfair.
Yeah.
And in that way, those were curse words to me. And I think those are the words, when we hurt people with language, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't think when we are expressing our own emotions and using 4-letter words that's really, I don't see that as a curse.
Yeah.
I realize that that's a word in our culture that we have decided is like whatever, like not a really right thing to say. But like, it's like, okay, I'm flipping off the camera, right? Like, did I commit a sin that moment that I flipped it off? Even if I'm just like, hey, like this is a bad thing in America. This is actually like more of the thing in Britain. You know what I mean? Like, am I transgressing against Britain when I do that? Probably not, because I'm making a point. We're speaking instructively. So I don't know.
Well, what other things do you think?
Hopefully someone screenshots that and makes that a meme.
So a GIF.
A GIF.
We can use it on Twitter. How awesome would that be?
Right.
That's goals. So another thing I want to talk about, like just introspectively, we're both Christian. I just want to talk about what are some other things that Christians can work on, interacting with the world.
So much.
Like what's the main thing, or if you were to talk to Jesus, if you were to be in a room, that was one of the fan questions on the Debs posting. People were wondering if you had to sit down with Jesus, what's the first thing you would talk about?
I would say I'm sorry for flaying you with a whip and for nailing you on a cross, and teach me how to see you when I'm not seeing you in society. Show me your image. Like, where am I missing you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been taught to see you in homeless people, or taught to see you in the orphan, but like, give me greater eyes. Like, where am I stepping over you? Where am I with my apathy? Where am I complicit in murdering you in all your love? And like, show me you. Give me eyes. It would definitely be it. Give me eyes to see you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's like the theme around that song about borders and DACA is like, you're the sound that, what do I say? Oh, I hear you through the silence. And I say, give me eyes to see you. I say, I didn't know your name. All I knew was that we were out of time. And I want eyes to see Jesus as Jesus is happening around me. I want eyes to see that. I think that's one of the main things in every Silent Planet song probably is like, give me eyes to see you now in this place. I say that in the song about LGBT kids on the street. Like, they in so many ways represent Jesus to our world, and we don't see them, Especially a lot of Christians think like they're the furthest thing from God when they're the closest thing to God. In those moments that they're suffering, and those moments that they're cast out, they are God. And so I say in a song, I say, Thomas sings it. It's one of my favorite parts of the album. Everything kind of slows down, and he says, the bitter irony, or no, I referenced the part when Jesus heals the girl, and they say she's dead. He says, no, she's only asleep, and they laugh at him. I say, when you said she was asleep, could you hear my disbelief? And the bitter irony that I wait for God as she dies in front of me. But I think so many people are looking for Jesus, and like Jesus is right in front of them. Yeah. And they don't see that. They don't take him seriously. When he says, I was sick and you took care of me. I was hungry and you fed me. I was clothed. I was naked and you clothed me. I was in prison and you visited me. They don't think of that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Would you ever consider...
I don't think of that, too. I'm in that group, for sure.
Group.
I'm in that group of shitty hypocrites, for sure.
We all are.
I'm in that group, yeah.
We're all in the group. Would you ever consider going into like preaching after Silent Planet, like after it's all said and done? Do you think you would start a church or a ministry?
I don't know. I have a lot of like things that I'm not. I know you don't have to be perfect to be like a pastor, but I have a lot of like demons and a lot of things that make me unstable, and I just wouldn't want to hurt people with my instability. Because pastoring, well, I could definitely teach. I feel like I'm okay with teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess when I think of pastoring is like equal parts teaching and pastoring. The idea that you're like leading people
Yeah.
in a humble day-to-day way. And I don't know if I'm stable or healthy enough to do that, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
I would like to teach though.
Yeah.
I enjoy teaching because teaching is a great way to learn. You know, you kind of get things out and you make space for more. You know, and or you say things and people rebuke you and they're like, no, that's wrong because of this. And I'm like, whoa, you know, hopefully I'm humble enough to receive that rebuke and continue, you know.
Yeah. I just feel like it'd be so interesting to have the discussion of like, you know, you've been doing Silent Planet for a long time now, and I feel like most of the world that you're interacting with, yeah, there's some Christians, you know, that people like, they love Christian metal, but then there's, I mean, just even me being in the music industry, there's tons of secular, you know, people,
Totally.
and I'm pretty much used to that, being like, hey, I'm like the Christian guy among people that don't believe in it.
Totally.
So I feel like it would be such a transition for you to go from that to, hey, I'm just working with Christian people that are seeking out to go to church every Sunday or Wednesday, Thursday, whatever.
I would definitely want to try to make a community that's just isn't just for Christians. And
Yeah.
I know every church wants to be open to that. But you know, yeah, but a lot of times you just fall short, and I would fall short too, I'm sure, but doesn't mean you don't want to try. You know?
For sure.
It's kind of the beauty that really is. You know that movie Interstellar? You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
I love this idea of like, there's no hope, but we're gonna keep trying.
Yeah.
The quote, don't go quiet into that night. Rage against the dying of the light. Don't go quiet into that bitter night. I think about that a lot. You know, a lot of the issues I talk about, I feel kind of hopeless about it, and I just try to have the hope of Christ towards it because I don't really know how these things get fixed or solved. You know?
Yeah.
Who knows?
How do you think, kind of going in a different direction, how do you think the like Warped Tour, or I guess metal genre, will change now that Warped Tour is going to be going away after this year?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I think that there's some bands that will probably be hurt by it more than others.
Yeah.
Warped Tour is awesome. I love it. I think there's some bands that like have kind of like, you know, been like, oh, we're the Warped Tour band, and they get to do Warped Tour and kind of, you know, get paid a lot of money and stuff to do it. But I think a lot of those, some of those bands don't quite have, some of those bands don't maybe have substance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some bands will be a little bit weeded out, to be completely honest. The ones that aren't really like adding things to some bands are kind of adding to the noise, I think, and other bands are trying to like make a new conversation.
Yeah.
And I think the conversation starters will continue to find a way to make music. But I think there's certain bands that just kind of are, you know, getting their paychecks and they are just making noise. And that's going to hurt them a lot, for sure, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that, like...
I love Warped Tour, though. I wish it was an ending.
For sure.
Just because sometimes it might, you know, a few bands here and there might be enabled to make more noise and not help the conversation. Kevin is awesome. I think Kevin's awesome. I think Warped Tour is awesome.
Great, yeah.
And I'm sad that it's ending. You know, they're having a party in Costa Mesa. Yeah,
it's in Costa Mesa. We're like right here.
Yeah, they're having like a thing. One of the bands I managed, we were able to secure them an offer. Actually, I can say this because it'll be announced.
Out, yeah.
A Dayseeker. We got Dayseeker a full Warped Tour offer.
Dayseeker, shout out.
So yeah, I was thinking there's this like industry thing. I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna go to it. I'm gonna. My dad's in town. I'm gonna hang out with him. But
shout out, Dad.
Yeah, shout out to my dad.
One of your dads.
The F word to him.
One of your dads.
Yeah, one of my many dads. Well, my actual dad. But yeah, I call everyone dad. So at this point, there's millions of dads. But my actual dad, who's an awesome dad, is in town. I think I'm gonna kick it with him. But yeah.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I kind of feel like the music is... We've already been going through this change for a little bit, going more towards an indie route. Do you see bands somewhat going even more towards that once Warped Tour is over? Like, you're saying you guys are changing, but you're going in a heavier route.
I think so, yeah.
Do you think other bands might go the opposite way and go, totally. Softer? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of bands eventually end up going the rock direction for a couple reasons. One, maybe the dude doesn't want to scream anymore. Mm-hmm. Two, it's not super financially sustainable. You know, there's a lot more money if you can make it into the mainstream. And regardless of all the reasons, we're just gonna kind of keep making music. I don't see Silent Planet as something that will ever be like world famous. I don't see it as like, I don't see us doing the Day to Remember route. You know, It's just not really in our DNA of who we are as a band, I don't think.
Yeah.
Good for them. We're just not really. That's not probably us. But we're gonna, we're gonna just kind of keep going and making music, and someday it'll be over, and I'll welcome it. It'll be the right time. You know. But I love it for now, and yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
A fan question that we have is, what area of mental health do you think needs the most improvement in America, or even as you are writing, like what's like one of the top areas that you think of in mental health?
It's an amazing question. I think the ship that's sinking is just addiction and substance abuse. I mean, there's a lot of people fighting. There's a lot of people trying to get the water out of the hole, but I mean that is an epidemic. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to like make an immediate change in people's lives and like fight the World War III, I would say addiction for sure. I think as far as what we need to learn more about is social media technology and how that fits with anxiety and depression. Wow. There needs to be a lot of research there. Because these little mobile slot machines are making us into pretty weird creatures. Yeah.
I agree with you. So you've gone on record stating that you have bipolar disorder.
Yes. I've diagnosed.
Yeah, diagnosed. So do you think that this band has helped or hurt that? Like made it better or worse?
I think it's helped.
You think it's helped?
I wrote a lyric. I don't know if I'm keeping it on the album, but I asked, and do you think it's art, the ramblings of a sick man? Mm-hmm. There's times when like I'm not very well and I'm writing these things. I think unlike Eminem, I'm not promoting sick ideas. Mm-hmm. I like Eminem.
Yeah.
But he promotes like sick things sometimes, like
for sure.
Things that are wrong and shouldn't be taken seriously. He even says to not take them seriously. And but I don't think I promote wrong things, but sometimes like, I think maybe part of what I write comes out of where I am, like mentally. And that's kind of a weird thought because I don't want people to want what I sometimes go through. And I've met people who have more extreme forms of what I experience, and I don't want what they have. I want them to get better, but I'm, I wouldn't want that to go through that because it's not easy. No one should want to be unwell in that way because it's not an escape. It's something that you want to escape sometimes, but it's not an escape. It doesn't. Whatever you go through definitely doesn't let you escape reality. It just changes reality as you know it. Does the band help it? I think so. I mean, I'm passionate about doing this band, and so that's cool in that way,
Do you think that with the band progressing and whatnot, do you think the noise, like you were saying, totally like changes things that you can kind of numb yourself to what you have to encounter, or no?
A little bit. I think this band may be delaying some inevitable life things for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And I want to talk about.
I'm good. Thank you. He asked me if I want coffee. Do you want coffee?
No, I'm good. One of the fan questions someone was asking, how are you always happy? And because you're a very joyful person to be around, and obviously your fans only see a fragment of you, and I know that, and I only see a fragment of you as well. And what would you say?
I still think about killing myself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was past that. I didn't think about it in 2015 really, or 2016 really at all. And not really in 2017. And things started to get pretty bad for me towards the end of 17 mentally. The reason I say that is just to give you an idea of like, because, and I'm like kind of ashamed to say that because like suicide is never the correct choice in my opinion. I believe it always comes out of a lie,
Mm-hmm.
and it is, as they say, you know, a temporary solution to, or sorry, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Usually, but regardless, it's not the right thing to do. But I'm not. I don't. It's weird because I don't put on a front when I'm happy. I'm really happy at shows because I love these people a lot, and it's like seeing someone you haven't seen in a long time, and it's awesome. Like, tour is so cool, for the most part, unless if you're sick. But as long as I'm like not sick and losing my voice, it's awesome. And I just love the people I interact with, and so I think a lot of people see me at my best, not because I force it, because I am like at my best. But you know, at certain points when I'm home from tour or certain times in the studio, I can get really low, like really low. And I'm not like proud of that, but you know, I've always wanted to be like authentic with people, you know, as much as I like think I can. There's certain things that like I go through or experience that I don't want people to like replicate in their own lives because that's just not healthy.
Yeah.
But besides like just trying to be responsible with what I say or don't say, I do want to be as honest as I can too. And I still, you know, struggle with those things. I say struggle with them because I don't want to be there, and I don't think you should be there. And I'm getting clinical help, you know. Man, if there's one thing that pisses me off more than almost anything is like, I'm not gonna name names, but bands that talk about like, I'm just gonna kill myself, suicide, and it makes me like pissed, honestly, because like I've been there. It's not glamorous, it's not cool, it's not fun. It shouldn't sell you. It shouldn't sell one of your stupid shirts or one of your stupid songs. It's not cool. You know what I mean? You know, Kurt Cobain made a mistake. There's nothing cool about what Kurt Cobain did. He's not a martyr. You know, he needed substance. He needed help. He didn't get the help. I don't believe people who commit suicide are cowards. I'm not here to say like they screwed up. Don't be a screw up. Like, I'm not mad at people that commit suicide. My heart breaks for the situation because they did make the wrong decision, and the last decision they ever made was the worst decision they made.
The wrong one, yeah.
But I do, man. I hate when people just glorify it or whatever. Because there's no, it's wrong. It's just, it's looking into the many black holes in our universe and saying, all right, I just give up. You know, I'll let it consume me. You know, because there is hopelessness everywhere you look, but I don't think that should take the day. You know, like I think you should go out fighting. You know, into the fight against the rage against the dying light, as they say.
Well, so we're nearing towards the end. I know it's been a while. Thank you for listening, everyone. It's been almost an hour and a half. I guess with the last question I have for you, essentially, is, you know, what do you guys have for the rest of the year? And also just kind of a bigger question. What do you picture the vision for Silent Planet in the future? Like, what do you picture it as, and where do you picture it, you know, laying its head to rest, essentially? What do you want to accomplish?
That's a great question. I want to play everywhere in the world, like everywhere. And I want to have important conversations with people about like what they're going through. I want to make songs that I want to just continue to really make songs that shed light on things that I think are in the darkness still. And yeah, I want people to be heard and seen and loved and known, you know, and who they are. That's what, yeah, it's kind of vague, but I don't really know if I have any like material things that I need
milestones
to do.
Or anything.
Yeah, besides just play all the nations. And I mean, I want to get better as a person, you know. And I learn a lot from people. I want to be humble enough to just learn, you know. I want to like be a better question asker and a worse answerer.
Well, you're a good answer for sure.
I just rambled a lot. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good to get in the mind of Garrett Russell.
Dude, my voice is so tired. The last 2 days of tour, I screamed like a bunch and didn't sleep at all.
Oh no.
My voice is still tired, but it's coming back around. I think it'll be good by
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you were up for
Shane.
48 hours,
Yeah.
right? Oh man.
More maybe.
I hope you're getting well rested.
I think I was up for 60 hours.
You don't look tired though.
Yeah, I have 2 nights of sleep.
That's good.
Since that thing. Yeah.
Amazing. How long did you sleep? Like 12 hours?
The first one I slept 12 hours. Last night I slept 5 hours.
Oh, okay. That's not.
So I'm back at it.
You're back at it again. Well, anyways, thank you so much for sitting down with me, man. I've always wanted to have a long, in-depth
I'm
conversation
glad
like
we got
this.
to do this.
Yeah, and I know the fans will love it, of course. So thank you so much.
Love you, lovers.
From the Silent Planet bus.
Thanks for watching us. Sorry we weren't looking at you most this time.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, they're listening.
Mwah.
Thank you, Gary.
Love you.
Love you too, guys. All right, signing out. Peace out.